Hey YouTube, Sam here. Well, as I get in your way here, the alternator on my van went kaput, so I am going ahead and going to show you how to change one of those in a 1987 97 Astro van. First things first, I already took and unhooked the battery. I actually took the battery and the battery tray out because I wanted to go ahead and clean them up, and the battery tray was quite rusty. So I got a video on both taking the battery out, an easy way in one of these stupid Astro vans that are a pain in the butt usually to take them out. I'll show you an easier way of taking the battery out. Also, I showed you, I'm doing another video on taking the battery tray out so I could clean it up. So if you want to learn that, go ahead and check that out. Also doing a battery maintenance slash cleanup video as well. It will be out there, so go check out all my videos. Enough of the shameless plugs. Let's get to getting the alternator out of this thing. And first things first, anything that's in your way, get it out of your way. And right now that air box is in my way, so I'm going to start pulling that up. And first, I'm going to pull the air filter out. Just a couple clips here. I believe that just pops up and kind of pulls forward. And then you can get the air filter out. And we need to come up here, and we got a van clamp or a hose clamp right here. Get yourself a flat screwdriver and we'll hose clamp here. Get yourself a flat blade standard screwdriver. Loosen that hose clamp up. And twist this thing out of there. There goes that. And clean this out. Here. And just take that, put it under there, and pry up on it. There we go. There's another one over here. Take that, just pry up on it. And that should bring this whole box out without having to pull it apart. So I'm just going to leave that all together. And you can see, alright, and you can see right here is what it's supposed to look like. This one stayed on here. They're just little rubber grommets. Boy, I tell you, the guy that put this together last, which wasn't me, I don't think put half the screws in that are supposed to be in this thing. I'm going to get an actual screwdriver here and see if we can't pop this off. It's been a while since I worked on this thing, but when I went to put a new air filter in it, a bunch of these were broken, and so it was just kind of hanging on this, like flopping around in here. So I went to the wrecking yard. You can find these, at least I found some at the wrecking yard. I don't know if you can see those. Found these at the wrecking yard, and they just stick in the holes inside your air box there, and it all just pushes down on top of here. Like I said, there was no screws in it, and actually at the wrecking yard I don't think there was any screws in it either when I went to pull these things out. So I believe that's all that holds them in, is these little grommet things. To do is take this fan cover shroud off here. On mine, it looks like there's a couple bolts down here. I haven't figured out the sizes yet, and I'm thinking there's a couple over here on the driver's side, but I'm not sure. I haven't quite dug into that. But something I did notice is that I'm pretty sure when I bought this, I kind of had a feeling it had been wrecked, but put back together decently. I don't know, decently, we won't say good. But when I went to start looking at pulling the shroud off, there are 3 bolts that are supposed to be holding this to the core support here that are not, they are missing. So this shroud is just kind of flopping around in the wind here, literally. So I will remedy that when I go to put this back together, but right now it makes my job a little easier, and I'll have to figure out why they didn't do that. Another thing while I'm in here, and something you guys want to look at, is I do have a leak somewhere. It doesn't seem to be, I don't believe it's in the radiator, because I never have any kind of drips under the car, but when I'm driving I notice I'm losing fluid somewhere. But it's not leaking on the inside like the heater core, so I don't know if it's something that's hasn't got to the inside yet, part of the heater core, or I'm thinking maybe water pump. I'm not hearing really loud noises like water pumps going out, but sometimes water pumps just start leaking and have problems. So I'm going to check that when I'm in here. Same with you. You get this all apart, man, look at everything in here. If you see anything that looks like it might be or is going bad, replace it while you got all this crap off of here, because you don't want to do this twice. Down here, there's two. There's one towards the front here, which you can get these long sockets. I don't care where you get them from. They're long extensions. Grab them. They make life so much easier. But if you don't have one, you can get it. I'm just gonna loosen it up a little bit here. Not gonna take them all the way out yet because I don't want them to fall down in there. Always cover your air filter area and your intake up with rags and things. You don't want a bunch of crap getting down in here, and then you put your air filter back on and a bunch of crap goes in there anyway. That's what the air filter's for. The shroud, one of them straight down. If you go in front of the brake booster area here, and also the radiator hose kind of goes around. It's in front of the radiator hose in this corner here. Another one, if you go behind the radiator hose, it's back here, right on the corner of your brake booster here, straight down. So, Harbor Freight cheapy, you can get them all over the place. Just one of these extendable magnets. Yep, another one of those top 10 tools that if you don't have it and need it, get it. Because that just makes life so much easier than trying to dig down there with your fingers, and especially with these big ham fingers I have. So anyhow, little tech tip there. Well, at the end of the air box here, your air filter box, I've decided that this is in my way. So if it's easy to get off and it's in my way, I'm going to take it off. It's something everybody should get used to doing. Just because it's there doesn't mean you can't move it. Anyhow, and to get under here with a screwdriver would be next to impossible, even with a stubby. So I got my ratchet here, and I believe that's an 8mm. This is an 8mm. I cannot find my 8mm, so I got a 5/16. It's not that hard to get off, so it'll work even though it's a little big. And I'm just going to loosen that up and pull it off of there. And before you start ripping things apart here, you definitely have to unplug a couple wires here. Real simple. Just pull these tabs up. It's in your way, get it out. I took the radiator hose and what appears to be like a throttle cable of some sort. They were just kind of laying over the top of this shroud here. Took them, pulled them up, put some baling wire around it, got it out of my way. Keeps you from wrestling that the whole time you're trying to pull this out. Little things like that can make it takes a few extra seconds, but it'll save you a lot of time in the end. I believe I have everything out of the way of getting this where I need it for the most part. I guess I could do that, but we'll see if it gets in my way. If it does, I'll baling wire it. But I think I got all the nuts, bolts, screws, whatever is holding this on. But honestly, there was only 4 of them in this all together. So pay attention to under, over, and around. Make sure you're not breaking things or pulling on things you shouldn't. Make sure there's no wires hooked to anything. And the best way seems to be just kind of bending this up, pulling it out here. And then it's kind of stuck down here on some stuff. There we go. So I just kind of pulled this out and it kind of twists and comes out. I'm not looking forward to putting it back. Probably be more difficult. Set that to the side. And I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, you can here. The alternator's sitting right here, behind the fan here. Oh, my extension cords for my lights are falling all over the place. Down behind the fan here, right below the alternator, is this tensioner pulley. Basically, well, that's exactly what it is. And if you can see, there's like a little square hole right there as I flip you off. Now they make a special tool to pry on that, but what I got is a flexible head ratchet. Although you could put a regular ratchet on there and put a little extension on it, whatever you need. This is the size of that hole, and you stick that in there, pry it forward, and it loosens it in this. Now, something I will say, now that I have it all set up, I'm going to change it. If your car does not have this sticker here on the core support, make sure you know how this goes, or you will have a heck of a time trying to get it back in place. So, without further ado, let's get this down in here. Hopefully all my parts and pieces are not in the way. And push forward on it. And right now, I am just trying to get the alternator belt off of here. And do not get your fingers in between these pulleys and the belt, or you will regret it when this thing either falls back or pops off here. So that's as far as I'm going to go there. This is going to come back quite a ways, as you can see. So be careful you don't let your wrench just go, or that will fly down and break something or crack your fingers. I hope you can see all that. Alright YouTube, you want to see what a bad belt looks like? There it is. That's one of the worst belts I've ever seen. This just goes to show, whenever you buy a car used, this is probably something you ought to look at sooner than I did. From the back, you know, I mean, it looks old, but you can't really tell. But when you start looking at these, it's definitely nasty. Newer belts, I do know that some of them don't crack like these ones do, the serpentine ones. The newer serpentine ones don't crack, is what I'm trying to say. They just get worn down, and there's actually a tool that you put inside of the grooves here, and if it, based on the size of the groove, is whether or not you have to change it out. But this one obviously needs changed bad. But don't throw this away. Put your new belt on, wrap this up, throw it in the back of your car. If you ever for some reason lose a belt, this is definitely better than nothing. Looks like we're to the nitty gritty here. It looks like there's a bolt here and a bolt right here. And I believe that's all there is. I'm hoping there's not one on the back of this. I know some of these have some back in the back that you have to actually go through the doghouse inside, but it doesn't appear this one is that way. Anyhow, we'll start pulling those out, figure out what. And they are 13mm, and yet again, this is where having one of these longer extensions is kind of nice. Let's go through the fan here and rock this loose on this side. Go up over here. Do the same. I got those two bolts out right there and there. And I did use my crowbar here and pry up a little bit on this side and pry it up a little bit over here. And that popped out. But you gotta be careful, there's wires hooked to it in the back, and I don't know how long they are. So, you need to carefully pull it out, but pay attention. Now, this hose right here, hopefully you can see it, right here, actually went up, around, and down to this right here. Now, the only reason why I removed that was because I'm actually replacing my water pump. So that'll be in a different video, but really I don't think you'd need to remove this hose here. I think it would move out of the way enough. Although it's not that hard to remove, not that much stuff came out of it, so you wouldn't waste a whole lot of antifreeze, I don't think. And I just wired it up here so I can get it out of my way. does not appear that they give you any wire whatsoever to be able to get to here. So I'm going to mess with this, be real careful, figure out how the best way to go about getting the wires off the back, but there is not a very long wire on the back. On the back, there appears to be a 13 millimeter here. It hooks some very short wires that go back that way, and then over here, right in front of my finger, there is a clip, which is also a very short wire. So what I have done, I'm gonna have to get a screwdriver, get up underneath there, and pry up on that and pop that off. Obviously get a 13 millimeter and pull this off. It's gonna be probably pretty difficult to get one back there back on, but gotta do what you gotta do. I will show you how I've kind of come about this. I actually pulled the alternator out and just faced it carefully, kind of pushed it back in there and turned it face down. So the pulley is down here, kind of, this is where it was setting before. And I just took it, twisted it, and set it down right there. That should give me access to the bolt back there, or nut back there, and the clip. I'm going to do that off camera. Oh, when I'm here, I found something else they didn't put back together right. That's supposed to have a bolt going down through here. So I don't know what they did in here and why they did it, but it appears they didn't know how to put things back the way they were. Don't do that, people. On the bottom of the bolt down here, there's another 13 millimeter nut on the back of the alternator. So when I went to pull that one out, this one, the whole thing started twisting. I don't know if that's going to be with all of them or if that's just with mine, if something's messed up inside or what. But anyhow, we'll get that off. But you may need to grab a wrench. I got a really thin wrench that I have here, which helps, but I'm sure about any wrench will work. And right there, you can see that is the clip that was on the back. And look at that. It's like it's not even the size of two of my fingers, that little tiny thing that is hooked to it. Or I guess it's technically, if this was down underneath here, which is probably where it was originally, that would have gave me a lot more room. So I plan on doing that when I go to put it back. I'm gonna check all these wires, make sure everything's good. Here's the other little boot that was on the back here. That just goes pretty far in the back there. I can give you some light on the subject here. But yeah, I have a feeling that it's the dildo that put whatever this back together here hooked that up around that wire for some unknown reason, and it gave me a lot less room. As it was on the back, I stuck a screwdriver in there, pried up carefully, because this is plastic and it's brittle plastic. Pried up carefully on that, and it just pushed it right out. It came out actually fairly easy. The alternator's out, so I'm going to do a video, separate one, on everything all put back together. But until then, this is Sam, Jack of all, Master of none. Y'all have a good one.